Welcome back, everybody. Today we're taking a deep dive into something pretty amazing happening in the UK justice system.
Oh, yeah.
It's this new program that has the potential to make prisons safer
Mm.
and, get those reoffending rates down.
Yeah.
And it's all centered around neurodiversity.
It's fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
Really
So
is.
we've got this UK government press release just
Yeah.
chock full of details.
Yeah, it really is a game changer. I mean, this program is tackling an aspect of the justice system that's so often overlooked,
Yeah.
and it offers some, innovative solutions.
Okay, so let's get into it. Neurodiversity.
Right.
It's a term we hear more and more these days.
Definitely.
Can you break it down for us? What does it actually mean?
Well, essentially, it recognizes that, there is no one right way for brains to work.
Right.
There are natural variations in how our brains function, how they learn, how they process information.
Okay.
And conditions like autism, ADHD, dyslexia, even things like acquired brain injuries, they all fall under this umbrella.
So it's really about recognizing that people experience and interact with the world in different ways.
Precisely. And it's not about, deficits.
Right.
It's about differences. And this is where things get really interesting because the press release estimates that a whopping half
Whoa.
of the UK's adult prison population
What?
could be neurodivergent.
Half.
Half.
That's a huge number. What does that look like practically, like on the ground?
Well, we're talking tens of thousands of individuals. The source highlights that since April 2021, at least 25,000 prisoners have been identified as having learning difficulties and disabilities.
Wow.
So imagine the challenges that can arise when a significant portion of the prison population might have trouble with understanding complex rules or following instructions or even just communicating their needs effectively.
It makes you wonder how much miscommunication or tension could be attributed to these differences, right?
Absolutely, and that's exactly what this new program is aiming to address. They've actually taken this big step of placing dedicated neurodiversity support managers in all 105 public prisons and young offender institutions across England and Wales.
Wow, that sounds like a big undertaking.
Hmm.
What will these support managers be doing on a daily basis?
They'll be wearing a lot of hats, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Their responsibilities range from identifying prisoners with neurodiverse needs to making sure those individuals have access to the appropriate educational and training opportunities. They're also tasked with training prison staff
Okay.
on how to interact effectively with neurodivergent individuals.
So that's things like clear communication.
Yeah, clear communication techniques, de-escalation strategies, that sort of thing.
So it's not just about supporting the prisoners themselves, but equipping the staff
Absolutely.
to deal with these unique challenges.
It's about fostering a more inclusive and supportive environment for everybody.
Right.
And these support managers also help prisoners with very practical things.
Okay.
Like understanding those sometimes complex prison rules,
For sure.
preparing for job interviews,
Right.
even advocating for them with potential employers.
Wow.
Like helping to explain how a prisoner's neurodivergence might affect their work, but also, highlighting the strengths and unique skills it can bring to a job.
So they're really trying to set these individuals up for success.
Exactly.
Not just in the prison system, but upon their release as well.
Precisely. The goal is to break that cycle of reoffending and help these individuals reintegrate back into society. Now, the program is being implemented nationwide, but the source mentions some early promising results at HMP Pentonville.
Oh, what happened there?
Well, they set up a special unit just for neurodivergent prisoners,
Okay.
and they've seen a noticeable decrease in violence and assaults.
Hmm.
It seems like this more tailored approach
Yeah,
can really create a safer, more stable environment for everyone.
that's fantastic. So we've talked about what's happening inside prisons, but what about the rest of the justice system?
Oh, that's a great point. And actually, they're also training magistrates and legal advisors on neurodiversity awareness,
Okay.
which should hopefully ensure that individuals are treated fairly in court.
Right.
Sometimes what might appear to be noncompliance or even disruptive behavior
Yeah.
could just be a manifestation of someone's neurodivergent traits.
So misinterpretations like that, could they be contributing to these individuals ending up in the justice system in the first place?
That is a really insightful question, and it's one that researchers and policymakers are starting to grapple with.
Okay, this seems like a great place to pick up next time.
Yeah.
We'll be back after a quick word from our sponsors.
All right. So we were talking about how this initiative in the UK could have an impact even outside the UK.
It's really interesting to think about, right? Because it's easy to think, well, that's happening over there, but how does it affect us?
Yeah, and what's happening in the UK with this program could have some serious ripple effects. I mean, if it's actually successful in reducing reoffending and making prisons safer, it could be like a model for other countries
You.
who are dealing with the same issues,
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
the US, for example.
Right.
They have a way bigger prison population than the UK,
For sure.
and even higher rates of neurodivergence among inmates.
So this could really be a game changer.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm also curious about the economic side of things.
Okay.
I mean, we've talked about the potential for cost savings,
Yeah.
but can we actually put a number on that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Research has shown that when you provide targeted support for neurodivergent people, especially in the justice system,
Okay.
you can reduce reoffending rates
Right.
by up to 40% in some cases.
40%. That's incredible.
It is. And that translates into some pretty significant cost savings. Think about it.
Yeah.
UK government spends billions
Yeah.
of pounds every year on prisons and the justice system.
Oh, for sure.
So if they can really bring down those reoffending rates,
Yeah.
they could free up a ton of money.
Right.
And that money could go to other really important areas.
Yeah, like education.
Healthcare, social service.
It's a ripple effect that could really benefit everyone, not just the people directly involved in the justice system.
Precisely. It's a win-win
Absolutely.
for everybody involved. We've talked about the societal benefits, safer communities, higher employment for neurodivergent individuals, and an overall reduction in crime.
Yeah, it really does seem like a win-win.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the support managers themselves, though. Like, how do they get trained
Right.
to handle such a wide variety of needs?
Well, they go through this really specialized training on neurodiversity.
Okay.
It covers things like autism, ADHD, dyslexia, acquired brain injuries. And they learn to recognize how each of those conditions might present unique challenges in a prison setting. And they learn how to develop individual support plans.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of approach.
No, not at all. For example, somebody with ADHD might need help with staying organized, managing their time,
Right.
whereas someone with autism might need like sensory accommodations or help with social interactions. So the support managers, they learn how to assess each person's needs and connect them to the right resources.
I see, I see. What about the rest of the prison staff?
Oh, good point. Yeah, they've got training programs set up for all prison staff.
Okay.
Guards, administrators, everyone. They learn about the different types of neurodiversity, common communication challenges, and de-escalation techniques that are specifically tailored to neurodivergent individuals.
It sounds like they're really trying to build a culture of understanding and empathy within the prison system.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
all about shifting away from punishment and toward rehabilitation.
I like it. I have to ask, though, is there a chance that labeling someone as neurodivergent could backfire?
Oh, like maybe it further stigmatizes them?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a really important point, and the people who design this program are very aware of that. They're really working to make sure everyone understands, prisoners, staff, everyone, that neurodiversity is a natural thing.
Yeah.
It's just variation in how our brains work. It's not a deficit. It's not a label to be afraid of.
So it's as much about changing attitudes as it is about implementing new programs.
100%. And that kind of change takes time and effort
For sure.
and consistent ongoing commitment.
Right.
So the program also has ways to gather feedback and evaluate if it's really meeting its goals.
So how will they know if it's actually working or not?
Well, there are a bunch of factors we'll track. If violence and self-harm go down in the prisons, that'd be a good sign, right? It mean the program is creating a safer, more stable environment. And they want to see more participation in those education and job training programs.
Sure.
That would mean prisoners are actually using the opportunities they're given. But I think the most important thing they'll be looking at is if reoffending goes down after people are released.
Right. It's all about breaking that cycle of going back to prison.
Exactly. And it's about giving people the tools to build a better life. And, to put a hummy face on this, the press release mentions a quote from Pavan Dhaliwal, the chief executive of that charity, Revolving Doors.
Oh, yeah. Revolving Doors. They actually work with offenders, right?
They do.
So they have a real understanding of what's happening on the ground. What did Dhaliwal say?
Well, Dhaliwal said, and this is a quote, "This initiative is a critical step toward making sure that neurodivergent individuals get the support they need to break the cycle of crisis and crime."
That's powerful. It sounds like they're really on board with this program.
They are, and having their support says a lot about how thorough this program is and how it focuses on the root causes of crime, not just punishing people after the fact.
I'm really glad we got to explore this topic in depth. But we're not finished yet. Up next, we're going to talk about the potential worldwide impact of this program and what it could mean for the future of justice everywhere. We're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive. We've been talking about this program in the UK, supporting neurodivergent people in the justice system. What do you think about the global impact of this thing? Could it catch on in other countries?
Yeah, I think it definitely could. It's not just the UK that has these challenges.
Right.
Lots of countries struggle with high incarceration rates, prisons that are too crowded, and just a general lack of understanding about neurodiversity.
It seems like we're seeing a change in how we approach criminal justice, like moving away from just punishing people
Yeah,
and focusing more on rehabilitation.
absolutely. And I think this UK initiative is a really good example of that. If it really works and brings those reoffending rates down and helps improve people's lives,
Yeah.
it could be an inspiration for other countries to maybe try something similar.
Like, what would that look like in a place like the U.S.?
Oh, that's a good question.
Their prison system's so much bigger.
It is. It's huge.
Yeah.
Adapting this program to the U.S., it'd have its hurdles, for sure,
Right.
but those core ideas could still work.
Right.
It'd take a serious investment in
Yeah.
training, both for the support staff and the people who work in the prisons.
Okay.
And it would take, I think, a real willingness to, rethink how we approach things like discipline and rehabilitation.
I imagine some people who work in the system might resist those changes.
Oh, yeah. I think any big change is going to face pushback,
Right.
especially from people who are, used to the way things are.
Yeah.
But the potential benefits here are just too big to ignore.
Right. We're talking about real change in people's lives.
Yeah, and cost savings, too. I mean, that's a big deal.
Okay, so how do we measure success for something like this?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are a few things we could look at. Like, if there's less violence in the prisons, less self-harm, that's a good sign, right?
Right.
Safer environment for everyone.
Yeah.
And if we see more people taking part in those education and job training programs, that's great.
Okay.
It means they're getting the skills they need
Yeah.
for when they're released.
Right.
But ultimately, the real test is whether or not people go back to prison.
Right. Reducing that reoffending rate.
Exactly. It's about giving people a genuine chance
Yeah.
to turn their lives around. And it's not just about numbers, it's about individual lives.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the press release talked about this one prisoner at HMP Pentonville.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. With the help of a support manager, he was able to get special educational resources
Mm.
and actually develop his artistic talents.
Wow.
Now he's planning on becoming a graphic designer when he gets out.
That's amazing.
It's a really inspiring story.
It is, and it really gets to the heart of what this program's all about, doesn't it? Recognizing what people are good at,
Yeah.
their potential,
Yeah.
and giving them the right support.
Yeah, I think we've really opened up an important conversation here.
Definitely.
This whole issue of neurodiversity in the justice system,
Mm.
it's complex.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully we've given our listeners a better understanding of what it's all about
Yeah.
and, the possibilities for positive change.
I think so.
Yeah.
We've talked about a lot today, starting with just what neurodiversity even means,
Yeah.
then the specifics of this UK program,
Right.
and the bigger picture, how it affects society.
Yeah.
I hope our listeners will keep learning about this
Yeah.
and think about how they can help create a world that's more just and equitable for everybody.
I absolutely agree. It's a conversation we need to keep having. The more we understand neurodiversity, the better chance we have to build a society that really values and supports everyone. Well, that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back soon with another fascinating topic. Until then, keep learning and keep questioning the world around you.